to A Well-Designed Business. My name is Luann Nigara, and I'm so glad you found this podcast. Together with my husband Vince and our partner Bill, we have grown our company WindowWorks from the ground up. So I know and I understand the challenges you face in running your interior design business. I also know that your talent alone isn't enough to ensure your success. So on this podcast, we talk about strategies and practical steps to help you grow your business. But make no mistake about it, we have our share of fun here too, mixed in with those aha moments that I love so much. This isn't fluff. Nobody has time for that. Whether you are a new interior designer or a seasoned designer, I am here to help you create and to manage the kind of interior design firm that you dream of. It's straight talk and it's action. Are you ready? Let's get started. Hey everybody, welcome to another episode of A Well-Designed Business. It's Power Talk Friday. And I am happy to tell you that I have with me today my guest, Fred Berns, who is the single most recurring guest on this podcast in its almost 3 years of being on the air. So Fred, thanks so much for coming on the show with me today.
Oh, thank you. And that's really an honor to know that I've had this opportunity to be with you all these times. I'm blessed. I feel very blessed.
Well, I have to say, it's because you bring the value every time, Fred. That's the truth. I mean, honestly, I will never forget when I first found you on the internet. As a matter of fact, I put this in our book that's coming up. I put this story on this in the book.
Oh, good.
I did. I remember it was the very beginning of the podcast, and I was consistently searching business coach for interior designers, interior designer business coaches. And the first time I did it, your name came up. And I thought, oh, and so then I went to your website and I was like, wow. And so then I emailed you. And of course, I was podcasting a minute and a half. And I'm thinking, in the beginning, I can't tell you how many people didn't even answer my emails, or they'd come back and they'd say, well, how many episodes do you have? And I'd be like, whatever. You know what I mean? Like, come on.
In those early days of A Well-Designed Business.
It's the truth, right?
Back in prehistoric times.
That's it. That's right. And I remember you emailed right back and you were like, I would be delighted to be on your podcast. And as a matter of fact, here's 2 topics that we could talk about. And I was like, well, okay. And so from the very beginning, what I always recognize about your shows, Fred, is that you come prepared with what you're going to tell us. So there's something to be said for the meandering conversation. There's something to be said for trying to get someone's genius out of them. And there's something to be said for my curiosity, finding that special thing in somebody that can teach the rest of us something. But Fred, you just are like, this is what I'm going to teach you today. Are you ready? And I'm like, yeah, I'm ready. So,
well, after doing this for 31 years, after being in this industry for 31 years, I better have something to say. I think that's important.
It's the truth. But you do, what I love is that you do it, it's intentional. In other words, it's thought out, it's prepared. And that also speaks to what our topic is today that you asked me if I wanted to discuss. And you have it called The Dirty Dozen, the 12 most common things that interior designers do to sabotage their own business. And even that, what I love is that you've explained to me is that, and I know this from our other conversations, that not only do you just have this body of work where you have this experience and your expertise is born of your experience, but I love that you take the extra layer, Fred, where you have often said to me in conversation, Luann, when I think back to all of the designers that I work with that are successful, they have this in common. And when I consider the designers that I've worked for that are unsuccessful or are just facing challenges and not able to come through it, they have these things in common. And so I love that's that extra layer that you do where you actually look for the markers that make a process, whether it's creating a killer website or creating, your only or an about you page. You look for the things that consistently show up that are well done and that could be done better. And that observation is your superpower, Fred, I have to say.
Well, thank you. Well, one of the things I've discovered, Luann, is that success leaves clues but mistakes multiply. And we're going to be talking about mistakes today because there are a lot of detours, missteps that designers take that really sabotage their success. And I want to point these out as kind of a warning sign for designers to avoid, because if you don't, you pay the price. And we don't want you doing that.
No, we definitely don't. And so before we get into it, I want to just say, if you are new to the podcast and if it's even possible that you have not heard of Fred Berns, let me tell you just a quick rundown of the different topics that Fred has taught us. So we have episode 22, very, very, very beginning, how to create a killer bio. 48, keys to a killer website. 96, selling methods of the masters. 174, your only words. 226, 5 keys to a fabulous fall. 289, 7 habits of luxury designers. 337, set and get higher fees. And so this is like a college course in interior design business right there. I'm just going to say. So I love it. And then one more thing before we get to it, I just want to thank our sponsor, Kravit. Kravit also has been with me from the very beginning. And this year, I'm very happy to tell you that we are going to celebrate the 3rd birthday party of this podcast at the Kravit showroom at the D&D building in New York City on February 5th. The party will be from 5:30 to 7:30 p.m. It is an invitation. Please come. There's no ticket price. The only thing that we do ask is that you actually RSVP through the Eventbrite link so that Kravit has the right amount to make a right amount of food, right amount of wine to make it a true party. So you can find that Eventbrite link through my website at luannigara.com. Click on attend a live event, and you'll find that in there. And that's February 5th, so it's coming up quick. And it also, if the date is ringing a bell to you, that is the week of New York Gift Show. So if you happen to already have plans to be in New York for the gift show, please plan to be with us on February 5th at the birthday party. Would love, 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 love to meet you in person. And so, okay. So
3 years. That's exciting.
I know. It's crazy. Yeah. It really is crazy. And I tell you, we can get anywhere from 85 to 100, 110 interior designers showing up at these birthday parties. And so Kravit has said, hey, the more the merrier, bring them all. So I'm telling you, please come. It's such a fun night. We really do we don't have any agenda. We just hang out, we talk, we meet each other, we take pictures, and it's just a real life, it's just a celebration of what together all of us have created. So it's a fun thing to do and to be together and share that. So, all right, Mr. Berns, the Dirty Dozen.
The Dirty Dozen.
Here we go.
Dirty. They are dirty.
And I'm just going to say, if this is your first Fred Berns episode, if you're running, walking, jogging, I got news for you. You're going to have to go back and listen to it again with pen and paper. But if you happen to be home and you can get your pen and paper, fair warning, go get it.
So often we talk about this time of year, especially, Luann, we talk about success steps and strategies and shortcuts. And the problem is we overlook the fact that there are obstacles and roadblocks that derail too many design professionals too often. And I see this all the time. And I've seen so many design professionals whose businesses have collapsed because they've fallen victim to these kind of silly mistakes that they weren't prepared for. And that's why I came up with this title of The Dirty Dozen, 12 Ways to Sabotage Your Success in 2019, because these things really do get you off course. They get you in trouble, and they can, in fact, be career killers. At the very best, they can be temporary detours, and at the worst, they can be career killers. And indeed, I have seen some very talented designers go out of business because they were not conscious of these kind of issues. And there's 12 issues, and they're important enough that if you commit one of these boo-boos, that can be enough. It can be one and done. So beware.
Okay.
So, Len, the first of these is playing the same game. There's an awful lot of follow the leader going. It's not really even follow the leader, it's follow the follower in the design industry when it comes to marketing and social networking and even setting your fees, I think. People look over their shoulder at other designers and try to figure out what they're charging and then do likewise because they think that they have to, there's some kind of model to follow. And, you and I have talked about fees before. And and I know that if you talk to 500 designers, you get 500 different permutations on how they charge for their services. So what I'm saying here is you decide what you should charge. You decide what you're worth. And we'll talk about fees to a greater extent a little bit later on. But basically, don't follow what others are doing in your marketplace. The bottom line when it comes to marketing, when it comes to social networking and fees and every other aspect of running your business, you make a great you, but a lousy somebody else. No question.
Great point, right?
So that leads us to number 2, the second of the dirty dozen, and this is fishing for minnows rather than marlins. What I'm saying here is too many designers are thinking too small too often, and they're aiming too low. And in the process, they undervalue themselves, they underpromote themselves, and they undercharge for their services. And again, this is something which you do to yourself. No one else. It's not your client's fault. It's not your prospect's fault that this is happening to you. It's you basically selling yourself short. And part of the problem has to do with the fact that a lot of designers, I read a lot of bios, as you know, Luann, bios for designers around the world, and I ask these designers, what makes them different? What makes them special? How do they stand out in the marketplace? What do they specialize in? What are they known for? And a lot of times I hear some whining. It's come to whining session. Well, I got to tell you, I don't really have any design degree. I don't really have any certification in design. I'm not a member of ASID or NKBA or IDS. And they go on. And I tell them right up front, to stop it. Don't dwell on your don't. I don't care.
Snap out of it.
Get a life. I tell them I don't care about the experience or the clients or the projects you don't have. I care about the ones you do. And I don't care about what you don't have, and you shouldn't either.
Right.
So, and the reason I bring this up is I think it translates to the kind of clients that design professionals go after. If they think that they're not qualified, if they feel as if they don't have the credentials or the certification or the background that their competitors do, for example, they tend to go after smaller clients and smaller projects. And they're fishing they're working with the bottom feeders as opposed to the big fish, the big kahunas. And that is not a good business decision by any stretch of the imagination.
Yeah, I want to share with you. It's funny because last week on Power Talk Friday, Fred, I did an on-air coaching session. Never did that before. And yeah, it was pretty interesting. And of course, I had the option of not airing it if it didn't go well, right? I mean,
yes, you control the show.
That's it. I'm in charge, right? But it went well, and I was happy and proud to air it. I thought that the designer Stephanie Castillo, who was the one on the show with me, showed a lot of courage in the questions that she asked and vulnerability, and I thought that it went well. But it was interesting because one of her questions that she asked me was, do I think it was important for her to be in ASID or any of these things? And I said to her, well, why? Well, to have that, why are you asking me? Well, in order to have that recognition, that moniker. And what's funny, Fred, is I said to her, only if it matters to you. Right. That's like I said, I don't want to, I'm not denigrating anybody who has the qualifications to be in ASID. It's worthwhile. It's terrific. And it's great that you have the opportunity and the requirement for the CEUs and so forth. But just speaking to her, I was exactly what I said to her. It only if it matters to you. If you can go and be and do and stand in your space without it, then go do it. But if you feel like you need it, you got to go do it, right?
That's a wonderful response on your part. ASID is a wonderful organization. After all, it is the oldest and largest professional organization of design professionals in the world. But that said, you don't get hired because of your ASID credentials. Let's face it,
Right.
And some of the most successful design professionals and and kitchen and bath professionals and window fashion professionals I've met over the years don't belong to any of these organizations because they simply don't have the time.
Right.
So don't feel as if you have to have the alphabet soup after your name, because it's something, as you say, that may matter to you, but it doesn't really matter to other people as much as you think.
Yeah, and it just goes along with what you're saying is, don't follow followers. In other words, if you want to be, because it would be important to you and give you pride and make you feel like this is something to be cherished and honored, then do it. But you don't do it because somebody else did it. Your follower, don't follow the followers. Right. So
that's right.
Awesome.
Yeah, for sure.
I love that.
That brings us to time management and the fact that too many design professionals fall into the trap of giving away their time. When I speak around the country, I always talk about the two biggest lenders in America, Luann. One of them is commercial banks, and the other is interior design professionals, because they give away so much darn expertise and time, So,
oh my God, that's a great line, Fred.
Yeah, I'm of the belief that doing so diminishes your value and doesn't really. People don't get how special you are if you're giving away your time. And I should mention that, again, talking about the rock stars out there, and there's a lot of rock stars in our industry, the most financially successful designers charge for all of their time, all of the time, just like lawyers, And I'm talking about things like travel time and thinking time and planning time and conceptual time. Now, this is a little controversial. Some designers I know would not even think of charging for their travel time. But I'm just saying that you should attach a value to who you are and what you do and the time you spend doing it.
I would have to say to you, Fred, that I think you would get less pushback on the concept of charging for travel time than you would for thinking time, for creative time.
Well, yeah, perhaps,
Right?
but again, it all goes into your professional package. This is what you do for a living, and there's no reason why you should be eating your time because you're afraid to charge for it. These are pretty basic concepts, Luann, but it's really about the professionalism that you want to display as a designer. If you're going to do it right, and get the compensation you want and deserve because you're an expert at what you do.
Right, and I guess we could kind of. We could look at that as opposed to straight up thinking time, right? Because I'm only picking this apart, Fred, because I know I'm going to get people that are going to message me and say, you can't charge people to think. I know I'm going to get that. So what I'm saying, though, is as I consider it and you say it further, instead of imagining yourself sitting on the sofa and thinking, I'm thinking about my design project. That was 30 minutes. Let me bill my client. How about we just look at it in the sense of your research or resourcing time. That's also thinking time. Like you're thinking, oh, maybe this sofa. No, I'm thinking maybe that sofa. Oh, how about 2 chairs instead? And we're not talking about abusing it, but we're talking about if you legitimately spent an hour to look for something, and because you did that research, you came up with a solution for a client. That's what you're saying is bill for that time.
I think you're perfectly justified in doing so. And if you call it planning, if you call it research, whatever it is,
right,
you charge for your time.
So don't write letters about thinking time out on the,
If you're out on the golf course and you happen to think about a project, maybe you can't bill for that, but I don't know.
Okay, I love it though. But it's really having pride in yourself that what you've done and what you've spent time putting together for a client has value, and to put the price tag on that value.
Right.
Love it.
The next of the success, the success saboteurs, I call them, is saying yes when you should say no. This is saying yes, for example, when a client is guilty of scope creep. A client wants you to do additional rooms or maybe work on the second home or ask you to do more than you originally contracted for. You don't say yes. You basically say, I would be happy to do this additional work. I do that kind of thing with my clients all the time, and the investment for that service would be X, basically.
Right.
Scope creep is a two-way street. It doesn't happen unless you will allow it to happen as a designer. And so I'm saying that you are very conscious of your time. You're very protective of your time, just like a lawyer would be, just like a doctor would be. It's important to think of that. And saying yes to smaller projects that don't really serve you, or getting out of your wheelhouse and saying yes to clients who don't really fit into your business plan. That's another example of going in the wrong direction here. A lot of time and energy can be spent on small projects. A lot of time can be wasted on the phone talking about a pillow in the family room, and that is not the best use of your time. And what we're talking about are habits. These are habits, after all, which cause financial hardships for design professionals, and they really cause problems when it comes to profitability and prosperity. And at the end of the year, I know a lot of designers scratch their heads and think, why didn't I do better this year? What happened? Where did I go wrong? And one of the main reasons may have been that you said yes when you should have said no too often to too many people.
I love it. I love it a lot. I mean, the scope creep thing, you know, the thing what I find a lot of times is that the designer, we unfortunately make the assumption that the client is expecting to ask the questions for the next part of a part of the project that hasn't been included. And in other words, the client isn't always trying to get away with something. Sometimes they are, believe me, I know that. But sometimes when they start to ask a question, and to your point, you just say, that's terrific. I would love to work on that with you. And the investment to start that part of the project is XYZ. I have learned that the more we help a designer say language like that, the more they find the response is, oh, okay, that's great. You know what I mean? Like the client isn't always trying to get away with murder. It's your point that it's our responsibility. It's the responsibility of the designer to put the line in the sand. And some clients will say, oh, well, I just thought you could while you're here. Then that requires, well, I'm sorry, sweetie, that's not how it's going to happen, right? But the point is to reinforce what you're saying is you cannot be taken advantage of if you don't allow it to happen. You have to recognize your role in the one who controls that.
It can't happen without your permission. And really what we're talking about is managing expectations, taking charge of these projects and taking charge of these relationships and letting people know this is how I work with my clients. This is how it works. This is how the game is played. So there's no guesswork. There's no confusion. Maybe in your cover letter, your contract, you spell this out, but basically you're making it very clear that you're available to do additional services, you're available to take on additional projects, but of course it'll cost the client as well. It should.
Right.
So we were talking about time, and that leads me to my next example of a way you can sabotage your success is what I call majoring in minors. And by that I mean wasting your time. There are so many bunny trails. There are so many distractions on social media and elsewhere that can just suck your time. You know, it can really take away your time, and that's why I suggest you begin your day with what I call the daily dozen activity. We've talked about this before. That is contacting at least 12 people who you need to know and who need to know you. We're pumping up the pipeline here. We're reaching out not just to clients or former clients or prospective clients, but contractors and vendors and bloggers and industry influencers, and just reaching out every day. And I tell the story in my seminars about this designer I was coaching some years ago, and she told me that she absolutely positively had to make another $25,000 between Thanksgiving and Christmas. And I said, okay, why don't you do the daily dozen? Why don't you contact 12 people that you need to know every day between now and Christmas? And she said, there was a pregnant pause on the phone, and she said, finally, are you crazy? I'm too busy. I'm too busy to make those calls. And I felt like saying, are you busy? Are you just busy, or are you profitable?
Right, right.
But finally, maybe just to get me off the phone, Luann, she agreed to do it. And she did. And she generated $23,500 within 2 weeks.
Wow. Isn't that awesome?
I'm not guaranteeing that those results will happen every time to everyone, but I'm saying that if you work that pipeline, if you pump up that pipeline, make those daily dozen calls, you will be far more successful at what you do. And you'll plant seeds that will germinate and produce wonderful crops and wonderful payoffs down the line. And one last thing about time management. I love this practice of the 5 o'clock focus, which is spending a few minutes, 5 o'clock in the afternoon, planning the next day, planning your MVP list, the most valuable and productive use of your time activities for the next day, so that when you start your next day, you have a list of your top priorities. There's no question about it. And you know that those activities will be productive and profitable for you. So what I'm encouraging designers to do all the time is get out of this practice of sitting down at your desk and then planning the day and trying to figure out what you're going to do today. I'm saying plan ahead.
Right.
Use time the day before to prioritize, to set up your MVP list, and you will find that you get a lot more done and you're a lot more profitable in your business.
I love it. I love both of those. I love the daily dozen and the 5 o'clock focus. That's awesome.
So let's talk about money, shall we? Money is
Sure.
something that's near and dear to our hearts. You and I talk about money a lot. I think the biggest challenge facing design professionals today, and I've said this before, is that they leave money on the table. There's entirely too much one and done in our industry. You do a project, you get your check, and that's it. Goodbye, thanks very much. When in fact, you need to be upselling and cross-selling and doing add-on selling all the time. You need to be suggesting a next step here. And part of this, I think, is educating your clients about all that you can do. I mean, I look at I do a lot of website work with design professionals around the world, and so often the service page is so sparse. There's so few services listed, and I say, you're cheating me. If you're not telling me all the design services you provide, you are cheating me as a prospective client, because I don't get it. I don't understand that you can help me out. So what I'm suggesting here as a way to make sure you maximize every relationship is that you have a thorough, complete list of all the services, all the design services you provide, and you're always coming up with a next step, a call to action. We've talked about before that you really want to imagine yourself as a professional billiards player. You're always setting up the next shot. You're taking your clients by the hand and saying, okay, this is what we should do next. And that's what they expect. They know you, they like you, they trust you, they need your guidance. They may not always agree to this next step, but at least you're providing them with some very valuable information and guidance, which is important.
I love it.
This next Success Saboteur really galls me, because there's so many designers and window fashion professionals and home stagers are so in love with their images, with their portfolios. And after all, we're in a visual industry, and that's great. But thinking your work sells itself is old school thinking, and it is the kind of thing that can kill your career. If you think that just because you have pretty images on your website, just because you're sharing all sorts of cool things on your house site or in social media, that's going to get you hired, and that alone, you're wrong. Because guess what? All of your everyone's got pretty pictures in this day and age, and consider how many images there are on the various websites, on House, for example. I mean, there's billions of images there. And what I'm saying is, your work does not sell itself. It's too darn competitive out there. First and foremost, you need to sell yourself. You're not selling your images. You're not selling your design services. You are selling yourself. That is the most important sale any of us will ever make. And we have to go beyond just the images. I'm a big believer in having concise but compelling wording on your various marketing materials that talk about your only, that talk about what makes you different, that talk about what you specialize in. But go beyond just thinking, this narrow thinking that because you have good-looking work, you're going to get hired and you're going to be successful, because that's not the way it works.
Right.
Speaking of marketing, the next thing that really can sabotage your success are what I call bogus bios and wimpy websites. Bogus bios. I'm talking about bios that block you rather than boost you, that disqualify you from the kind of clients and projects you want and deserve. Websites that don't promote all that you do and how well that you do them, and information that doesn't really promote your team at all. The fact that you have a whole team of contractors behind you, you have other designers on staff, you have vendors and suppliers. These are the kind of things you need to point out. Your bio is your most vital and versatile and valuable marketing tool. It's really got to rock. I mean, because this is your brag sheet. We've had a whole session on bios. And anyone who is listening who feels as if his or her bio is not getting the job done, check out biobriefing.com, biobriefing.com, which is a coaching session that you can sign up for where I can help you create your own killer bio. And if you're not happy with your website, check out websiteonceover.com, also a coaching session where we kind of go through your website and we talk about how to punch it up and upgrade it and update it in such a way that it creates buzz and creates business for you.
Very good. I mean, I have to say, I've said this before when we've had these conversations about the About Me page and the bio page and stuff. And I recently had a coaching session with a designer who's very talented. I love her portfolio of work. She's smart. She's a smart lady, been in business for a while. And when I read her About Us page, there wasn't anything there. I could have taken her name out and put any name in. And I have, worked with her for a couple of sessions now. And even in those couple of sessions, I knew things about her that were nowhere to be found. And so it was funny because this particular designer, it happens to be a second generation interior designer. And I thought that I explained to the designer that I thought this was important for me to know as a consumer, because it said to me that not only does she have her own education, her own experience, her own clients that she's done and she's worked through the projects and learned through, but I imagined how many times she sat at the kitchen table talking with her parent about design and the process of design. And as a consumer, I thought, that's a whole layer of education and schooling that the next person's website that I look at would not be there. And her response was, oh my goodness, it's true. We get buried into conversations for hours and hours, and that's exactly how it is. I said, tell me about that. Right? Don't you agree?
Yeah, without question.
Right?
It's an education process. And, I was coaching a client yesterday, as a matter of fact, a designer who wanted to update her bio. And I want to read you the first sentence of this bio, Luann. I'm not going to mention her name.
Right.
But this is what I mean by having a bogus bio, having a bio that is more of a hindrance than a help. So this is how the first sentence of her bio reads. When talking about the ideal interior, so-and-so goes right back to her roots, a bouquet of tulips sitting on a 100-year-old table, a living room full of friends gathering for aperitif, a table effortlessly set for dinner with the family's heirloom silverware mixed with the linens of the moment. What the heck does that mean?
Right, I don't know.
and that is not how you get bigger projects and better clients, by using that kind of approach. So
right, because she's not solving anybody's problem in there.
No.
Right.
And we've talked about the fact the average visit to a website's 4 seconds, 2 clicks. You got to grab them. Mm-hmm. You got to knock their socks off in a hurry. No question about it.
Yes, definitely.
All right. So we move on here to going it alone. This idea of figuring that you're the boss, so you can do it all. There's no reason to delegate anything. Just because you're working 85-hour weeks doesn't mean that you should delegate anything. And that's really ridiculous. That's really narrow thinking. You do what you do best, and you delegate the rest. The result of you doing it all could be a lousy social networking, lousy marketing, poor client relations, whatever. And just about every professional I know has a coach, has some kind of mentor to give them vision, to give them clarity. I have a coach. I don't know if you have a coach, but so many the most successful people I know in every industry have some kind of coach, because we're too close to our own stuff. We don't get it. We don't see the forest through the trees, and it's very important to reach out to other people to get their help, to get their assistance here, and to understand that you do what you do best, and let others do the other things, so that you're making the most valuable and productive use of your time, doing what's in your wheelhouse, and that's really important. So don't go it alone. That's a success saboteur.
I love it.
Back to pricing. The final three have to do with pricing here. Viewing price objections as obstacles. I think we've talked about this in the past. Certain professionals I know would rather swallow formaldehyde than face price objections. I think they'd rather crawl on hands and knees on I-95 than face price objections, which is silly. Come on, that doesn't make sense. Price objections are opportunities. People have to be at least somewhat interested in your design services to even question the price. Right. Otherwise, they can tell you to go play in traffic. Right. So you want price objections. You have a 30% chance of closing a deal. Your chance of closing a deal are 30% higher when at least some price objections are raised, because that indicates interest on the part of your prospects. And so just think of price. If you're getting price objections, what that means is you're not communicating your value effectively enough, and that's no big deal. You need when someone objects to your price, you're not a priority in their lives right now, and all you have to do is educate them as to why you should be a priority. Mm-hmm. And finally, I love the fabulous fallback. If all else fails, if they keep beating you up on price, no matter what you say, no matter how clear you are about the value you provide, you can always say, I have no problem with those designers who charge less than I do, because they alone know what the value of their products and services are worth, is worth.
That's right. I mean, it's the truth. And the thing is to your point, somebody who has removed themselves from your process, either because they've decided they don't like your personality or because they've decided that your price is so far out of the wheelhouse that it's not even possible, right?
Right.
Or has decided that your designs are nowhere near the mark. They will not object. They will simply just say no, or they will be gone from the process. So to your point, an objection is another opportunity to come back and regroup, reclarify, and figure out what problem you missed solving for them, or what stage you missed expressing your value to them. But the door is open. It's not a no. An objection is not a no, and that's a good thing.
Yeah. That's right.
Right.
And
no isn't even no. I mean, honestly.
No may just mean not yet.
Right,
not
exactly,
now,
right.
So go until no and go beyond no, I think is the way to approach that.
I think the tough thing, Fred, is that there needs to be a process when you begin your business and grow your business, that you learn to separate your person from the transaction of this proposal to do business and objection to the proposal. It's like, it's not you. They're not.
Don't take it personally.
Right.
Yeah.
And that is a little journey that some people really need to go on and have to work on to come through on. And I think that is, if the crux is there, that's where they've got to work on it and really learn to believe in that separation.
No question about it.
Right.
Now, you are going to sabotage your success big time in 2019 if you continue to futz with your fees. And that brings us to the 11th Success Saboteur. This isn't about let's make a deal. This isn't about playing games with your price. This is about, again, stating this is how I work with my clients. The investment in my services is this, basically. I mean, if you are constantly changing your fees or caving in on your fees, you are not coming across as serious. You're not coming across as professional. And that's not just your problem. That's a problem for our whole industry. If people have the belief that they can can negotiate with designers all the time, and the designers will give in. That's not good for our industry. So it's very important that you hold firm on your price, especially at the close. They say that 90% of sales professionals in general, and I'm sure interior designers in particular, offer to lower their price before they're asked to do so. 90%.
Oh, right. I know.
And there's a clinical word for that, Luann. It's called stupid, I think is the word I would come up with. I think the key here is to shut up. Shut the heck up.
Well, that's it. It's a very strong, powerful tool.
You quote your price and then you shut the heck up.
Be quiet. Stop
he or she who speaks last loses when it comes to closing the deal. So you be firm on your price, and you'll find that you'll be a lot more successful in negotiating with clients, for sure.
Once they understand that you are dead serious, it completely changes that dynamic and interaction. And some people will understand it when you refuse to negotiate your price one time. Other people will require 2 and 3 and 4 times. But when you do stand there, what's ultimately going to happen is you will ultimately close it at the rate and whatever the proposal was, that is your rate that you gave, or you will walk away, and that's okay too. Sometimes
Absolutely.
The takeaway is the biggest thing and the best mechanism on the planet. Now, you have to do it respectfully, but you can say, I appreciate your wanting to do this project in this price point, but it's not possible. I've expressed to you all the reasons why, all the value that I'm bringing, all the product that this entails, all of the hours this entails, and it's not realistic. So, you know what? Thank you for the opportunity to quote this proposal with you, but I'm going to have to walk away because it's not possible to do it in that parameter. 8 out of 10 times they're going to come back and go, okay, well, what will it be? Well, it'll be just what I told you the first time when we started this conversation. Remember that? All right, fine, I'll do it.
And when you walk away, you do so with your head held high.
And it goes to your other point back in the beginning, number 4, don't say yes when you should say no. I mean, that marries right into that. If somebody has asked you 2 and 3 and 4 times to lower the price, and you know darn well that you cannot do it for that price, don't say yes when you actually mean no. Just say no and let the chips fall, because there's no point in doing a project that, to your other point, like, don't be the second biggest lender in the world.
Exactly.
Right.
And there are ways that to avoid this kind of if the closing isn't working for you, you may not be asking a couple of very important questions. I call it the 2C close. You've asked these clients ahead of time what their biggest challenges are, what their biggest problems are, and then toward the end of the discussion, you want to ask basically, so how committed are you to overcoming those challenges? How committed are you to updating and upgrading your space? How committed are you to preparing your home for resale or whatever? And they may say very committed or whatever. And the other question to ask is, what would it cost you not to move ahead with this? What would it cost you in time and aggravation and stress if we don't work together? And the combination of those two questions can really help you close a lot more deals with a lot more clients. But at any rate, you want to hold firm and fast and don't futz with your fees. And that brings us to our final the 12th point on the Dirty Dozen, the final way you can sabotage your success in 2019, and that is by charging too little. Yeah. How many times, Luann, have we talked about this idea of undercharging for your services? And one of our programs we did together was about luxury clients and luxury market, and I interviewed one of the Architectural Digest Hot 100 designers some months ago, and she said that I asked her, how is it that so many designers are looking for bigger projects and better clients, but you get them? How is that? And she said, well, I charge enough, and the others don't.
So true.
And the idea being that luxury clients are there's a disconnect if you charge too little. They're used to paying top dollar for top quality services and products. And if you go in there with a quote that's far too low, they may not say this to your face, but they may say this to their spouse, and they may say this to themselves. If this person is so good, why the heck is she so cheap? or why is he so cheap? It doesn't make any sense. So you've got to charge the part. If you are serious about working in the luxury market, you've got to charge luxury fees. That's all there is to it. And when you charge too little, you bring down the entire industry. It gives the industry a bad name again. And as we said before, the number one obstacle to higher fees, to getting higher fees, is you.
Right.
Because you're not giving yourself permission to charge what you're worth. So charging top dollar for top quality services and products should be a no-brainer for you, and should not be something you even think twice about.
Yeah. What I often say, and anybody who's a loyal listener and listens all the time is like a broken record for me. I know that people shop in categories. And whenever I have a designer that is trying to convince me that they want better projects, but they can't seem to get to that level, and then I ask what they're charging per hour, and they say it's 85, 100, 125, I always say that's because the people that are doing the bigger projects at the full service level are not shopping for $100 hour designer. Right. They're not shopping for you there, and you're not there, so they're not finding you. So, when you are somebody that has a certain level of income, is accustomed to a certain level of service, is accustomed to a certain level of product and quality, you understand that everything attached to that process is going to be at that higher level of dollar. And your hourly fee puts you in a lane. And so if I'm coming into the marketplace and I've got some dollar bills and your price per hour is 100 or 115 or 85, I'm thinking you're not experienced yet. You're not vetted yet. I don't know. I don't care how pretty the pictures look, because I know that a quality interior designer that's going to run a well-executed project and has the wherewithal to do that is charging much more than that.
Of course.
Right. Exactly.
No, absolutely.
Exactly.
As we look at these dirty dozen as a whole here and reflect back, I hope our listeners will ask themselves a very basic question: who's in charge here? This is about being in charge of your business rather than the business being in charge of you. You controlling the business rather than business controlling you. And these missteps, these mistakes, these detours, these career killers are really happen to those people who let their business run them and don't take control of their own destiny. So I guess the way to avoid these things and the way to ensure your success is be a take charge guy and be a take charge gal, and make sure that you are running your business in a way that will ensure your success and your profitability moving forward.
It's the truth. And I just want to also just clarify, because you know, Fred, that I have legions of my baby designers that listen to this show. And I'm sure a lot of them right now just said, well, I'm sort of new at this. I can't just charge $250 an hour. And so I don't want the message to be misunderstood. Your expertise has got to be in line with what you charge. So if you are a hot minute out of school or a hot minute out of, whatever path you took to interior design, you're right. You don't just put out $350 an hour on a shingle. You might have to start at 85 or 90 or 100. But I think the point I'm making, and I believe you're making the same point, is that when you're ready to move to the next level, the disconnect is that often the designer thinks they have to get the next level higher up project and client, and then they can raise their fees. And what I am saying, and I believe you're saying, is it's the raising of the fees is part of the piece of the pie that attracts that higher level client.
That most definitely. And also finding the pain and addressing the pain. High-end clients, just like low-end clients, have a lot of pain. They have a lot of issues. They have a lot of challenges. They're busy.
It's different pain, but they have pain.
Yeah, they don't have the vendors and suppliers. They don't know where to begin a remodel project. And if you can solve this pain, no matter how inexperienced you may be, if you can solve that pain, then you can set and get higher fees. So. Right. I think for those, your baby designers should go into this not just as designers, but as interior consultants who are partnering with their clients and who have the capability of solving the problems that are so frustrating to so many homeowners and so many commercial clients as well.
Exactly. When you recognize that you are the person that is the hero in that, and you are the one that's solving their problem, then it becomes a little easier to digest that you have every right to charge for that service that you're providing, and that you should charge it at the highest level that you possibly can in order to, do the job and do it well. So I love it, Fred. I absolutely love it. I mean, the dirty dozen. So, and let's just re-say what you said in the beginning, and I love it so much. Success leaves clues and mistakes multiply. So this is such a true statement, but let's just take a second to really think on it, you guys. Success leaves clues. So that means that whether you're talking with a coach, you're talking with a peer, you're talking with a mentor, you're at a business meeting, you're at a seminar, what are the clues to that particular person's success that you are picking up as you're in that exchange? That's the other thing. And mistakes multiply. So be honest with yourself. If you are consistently making the same mistake, you are ignoring something. You are putting your head in the sand over something, and just pick it up and face it. And if you can't, find the solution on your own, reach out to a friend in the Facebook group, somebody, anywhere. Listen to a podcast episode on it. Do something, but don't just be satisfied with having your mistakes multiply. So right. I love that. I love that, Fred. It's awesome. So you've got. We tend to overlook obstacles that can ruin our career. That's the biggest premise that you're saying. And you want to say that you don't do the same game. Don't follow the followers. And you're saying fish for minnows, not marlins. Okay. Don't undervalue yourself. Don't think small. Don't dwell on your don'ts. Dwell on the things that you have. Don't give away your time. You have to manage your time. And, you have to make sure that you charge for all of your time and really place value on yourself so that you have pride when you give that invoice over for the hours that you worked. Okay. Don't say yes to scope creep. Don't say yes when you should say no. Okay. Don't major in minors. I love in this tip here. We had the 5 o'clock focus. So every day at the end of your day, just take your phone out, take whatever device you use out, and make the list of the 5 things that you're going to focus on tomorrow that are going to be a game changer, a mover, a needle mover in your business, okay? And then we've got go ahead. You want to say something?
I was going to say, I call it the MVP list, the 5 most valuable and productive uses of your time tomorrow. What are those 5
valuable and productive uses of your time tomorrow. Love it. Then the daily dozen calls. And we had Candy Scott on the show, and she calls it dialing for dollars.
That's a good way of putting it.
That's it. So
smiling and dialing.
That's it, right? So make your calls every day, okay? Then we have don't leave money on the table. Don't look at your clients as a one and done. What other products and services can you offer and sell to them, and make sure they know what they are, whether it's your website. I'll share with you, Fred, my husband, Vin, he developed a page called The Essentials. And, he's old school, right? So literally every single time he goes on a sales appointment, when he's done, whether he closes it or he doesn't close it, he pulls out this page on our letterhead, and it literally lists every product and service that WindowWorks offers. And he says, wow. Yep, and he hands it to them. Kimberly does it too. Hands it and says, I just want to let you know, I appreciate your business today. Thank you for buying, XYZ from me. And I don't know if you know, but here's all the other things that we do and the ways that we can help you with your projects. And the
reality is they don't know.
That's right.
That's right. People don't know the services you don't tell them about.
That's right.
They don't know about the products you don't describe to them.
He has sold people awnings, brought that out after collecting the deposit for the awning, and then they say, wait, oh, you do this too? Can you come back in and measure for that? Sure can. Let's go right back in, right?
So it's asking the questions. McDonald's years ago had their people at the window say, do you want fries with that? And in the process, they generated billions of dollars of extra revenue because people, they said yes, they do want fries with that
okay.
burger. So ask the right upselling questions.
That's exactly it. And then number 7 was thinking your work sells itself. That no, you have to tell the story of why and who you are and what's different about you. And we need to find that information in everything you do, whether it's a blog post, a website, it's your social media. It's not just about the pictures, because a picture is a picture is a picture. I need to know who you are, right? Then we have the bogus bio and the wimpy websites. Want to make sure, same thing, that those are up and good, and we can have our bio briefing at biobriefing.com if we want. We can have our website once over at websiteonceover.com. Those things are open to us, and I have had many listeners tell me that they have taken advantage of these things with you, Fred, and that they just completely redid their website. So that's, kudos to you. And
Thank you.
Yep. And then number 9, don't go it alone. That, you have to do what you do best and delegate the rest. I love how you have all these sayings. They're so cool. So
I didn't invent that, but somebody did.
Okay.
It rhymes,
Right, exactly. And so that you can look at it both ways. That is, to your point, it's not only not spending time in your business doing things that somebody else could do so that you can move on to more money-making opportunities or more money-making projects and productivity. But it's also, if you need help, get a coach, get a mentor, get a mastermind, get an accountability partner, do something so that you are always growing and expanding. And then now we have our 10, 11, 12, viewing price objections as obstacles. We need to understand that this conversation is exactly that. And when somebody shares an obstacle, it's an opportunity for you to come back, clarify, re-summarize your value, and re-figure out where you missed the ball. You dropped the ball there somewhere. That's all that is. But you've gotten a chance with the obstacle to pick the ball back up. And then number 11, don't futz with your fees. That very technical term, no futzing with your fees.
No futzing allowed here.
Okay. These are your prices. Stand in your space, own your value, and push back. Okay. And then charging too little. Okay. Recognizing that when it's time to move to the next level in your business, when you feel that confidence and you understand that your skill set has grown and that your project management skills have grown, your negotiation skills have grown, your actual design skills have grown. When you're ready to move, just move. The more expensive clients are there in the next lane waiting for you to jump into that pool. That's how this game works. You enter, you work where you can. When you're ready to move up, you decide to move up. They don't come finding you. You move up and they'll find you. So, Mr. Fred Berns, I adore you, buddy. I really, really do.
Well, the feeling is mutual. I couldn't have said better what you just summarized. That was really well done. And Luann, I wanted to mention one thing, that if people, I offer an introductory coaching program on how design professionals can avoid these obstacles that we've talked about. And if people are interested in that program, they can go to interiordesignbusiness.net/coach call.
Nice.
You click that link, interiordesignbusiness.net/coach call, and they can get information about the coaching program that goes along with avoiding these career-killing obstacles we've talked about.
All right. I love it. And so we're not going to end the show without just saying that you are coming to New Jersey, Fred, for the Luann Nigara Live. It's about the conversation.
Can't wait.
I know. I can't wait either. It's going to be so amazing. So you're, as I've said during this podcast, you're one of the co-authors in my upcoming book, The Things I Learned from a Well-Designed Business, the Power Talk Friday Experts. We're launching that book on March 30th at this event, and Fred and all of the other 11 co-authors are going to be there. Darla Powell from Wingnut Social and Darla Powell Interiors, along with Natalie, are going to MC the event, and we are basically going to do 12 live podcasts, one after another, with exactly this. Fred giving us his wisdom, me asking the questions, clarifying what he means. You get a chance to ask the questions and ask how it relates to you. And we are going to be together. If you do the general admission ticket, it's a 2-day ticket. If you do the VIP add-on ticket, it's a 2.5-day event. And this is what I love about this event, Fred, is access. So this is you and I both go and we do presentations and we do different events at High Point in the different markets. And yes, we're there for questions afterwards, but usually within 15 or 20 minutes, somebody's saying, okay, guys, get out of here. The next speaker's coming on. And this is an opportunity over either 2 full days or 2.5 days, your choice, to have access. So when Fred is having breakfast, you can horn in on him and say, Fred, I need some help.
And what I'm excited about is just to mingle with industry experts. I mean, We're talking about 12 people who've been in the industry for a long time. We've got great insights and ideas and shortcuts to success. So I think it's going to be a great learning, educational opportunity that just doesn't come along much in our industry.
I have to say, there are many industry events that I love, adore, and think have value and will go to them and recommend that people go to them over and over. There's no question. But this is unique. This is going to be jam-packed from 8 o'clock in the morning. It's funny, and I have to clarify, because I keep saying from 8 o'clock in the morning till 11 o'clock at night. And I was told today that people are nervous that they're not going to have the energy to go to 11 o'clock at night, right? And so the reality is that we're going to be content from 8 o'clock in the morning until about 8 o'clock at night. And then from 8 to 11 each, the 2 nights, it's going to be hair down, relaxing. With me, if I'm awake and you're talking to me, I'll talk business to you. So if you want to talk with me about business till 11 o'clock, I'll do it with you. But if you just want to dance with me on the dance floor, I'll do that too. But the content is full.
Or you can talk about business while dancing.
That's it. I can multitask. That's it. I could do it. So, but I have been told that some people have been nervous by me saying that, and I'm a little intense, so I can understand why it could make you nervous. But the reality is that if you really do need to go back up to your room at 9 or 9:30 or 10 o'clock, you're not going to miss the content part. We are going to put a cap on that, and that's reasonable. But if you want a chance to relax and mingle and put your hair down and have a good time, I have to have that at the end of every day. This day now, you and I are recording. It's the very end of the day, and there has to be that transition for me. I just don't want to ever, work a 14, 15-hour day, 12-hour day, and then just go, boom, it's over. I need that transition. So I've built that transition into this event.
Good. We'll all need that transition.
Exactly.
Wow.
So thank you so much, Fred. I truly appreciate you as a person, as a coach, as a mentor. You've been so helpful on this journey with me, and I'm so honored that you're in this book with me. And I'm really looking forward to spending a couple of days with you in New Jersey.
Well, I'm very excited about New Jersey, and I want to thank you again, Luann, for the opportunity to share my thoughts with your listeners. So
yes.
It's been a lot of fun. So.
And I'm just going to say, we're both going to be at KBIS, though, before we're in New Jersey. So you're going to.
That's right.
Yes, we'll
KBIS
both be there. So
yep.
So if you guys are going to be, any of you are going to be going to KBIS, please find myself and Fred. We'd love to meet you. Thank you so much for joining me again today. This podcast is a production of WindowWorks, your resource for custom window treatments and awnings. To learn how we can help you on your next interior design project, go to www.windowworks-nj.com. And if you're interested in working with me on your business, either through masterminds or one-on-one coaching, or you want to know how to get my book, The Making of a Well-Designed Business, or you just want to know what's going on in the podcast land and where I'm going to be, all of that is found at luannniagara.com. Thank you so much. Have an excellent day.